Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
F. You're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. It is the 30-something movie podcast. It feels like it's been a while since we've been together. Has it been? It's probably been a couple weeks for us, not for all the people listening.
Well, yes, because they're loyal listeners and they're with us every week.
All the time.
I love the loyal listeners.
Yes. Yes, your loyalty is appreciated, comrades.
That's right.
So, speaking of loyal hosts, we'll start with the loyal hosts. How are you guys doing? Patrick, Bo?
Hey, dude, life is good.
Right on.
Life is good. Yeah.
Summertime, summertime.
Yeah, it's the hot and humid days of summer.
Yeah.
It feels like global warming never ends. I mean, the summer will never end.
I wish I was a baller. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I had a girl. If I did, I would call her.
That was pretty good.
I don't know why I went straight to that song.
Why not?
Yeah.
Works.
I mean,
it
really.
works.
Yeah.
If the shoe fits.
Eat
if
it.
The shoe fits.
Yeah. I think that's what that phrase is.
Yes.
This time around, speaking of eating shoes, our movie is Beethoven. So we're continuing like the big dog movie trend of the last few years. We've had Turner and Hooch. We've got Beethoven. So this is kind of like a 80s, 90s kind of thing with the big slobbery dog motif.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's interesting. Like we live in a time now where it's like there's the Marvel franchise, there's the John Wick franchise, there's the DC franchise, the Star, like everything is a franchise, and if you come out with one movie, you're going to make 20, like that whole thing, and it follows a pattern and all that. But that's the real interesting thing with going year by year is that concept is not new. I mean, that concept of like, oh, you're doing a dog movie, we're doing a dog movie, and we're all doing dog movies. You know, it's kind of it's just interesting to see that. Now, obviously,
you're doing Unforgiven, we're doing Wyatt Earp. I'm doing Tombstone.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's that's just an interesting. It's just interesting to study that, to see that.
And I mean, talk about a cinematic universe. I didn't realize there were 8 Beethoven movies.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I knew of 3.
There are 8 of them.
Wow. That's
wow. Savick. John, where's the drop?
Hold on. I'm getting there.
8 Beethoven movies?
That's extraordinary. What would you like to do next?
Apparently another Beethoven movie.
Right?
Let's see. There is Beethoven. Beethoven's second came out in 93. Beethoven's third came out in 2000.
That's about as far as I knew.
Beethoven's fourth was 2001. Beethoven's fifth, Big Paw, came out in 2003. Beethoven's Big Break came out in 2008. Beethoven's Christmas Adventure came out in 2011. And Beethoven's Treasure Tale came out in 2014.
His Big Break, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's somebody steals his bicycle, and he has to go find it from the basement of the Alamo. Mm-hmm.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
No, not at all.
Germans hate.
Yeah.
You know what?
He's on a roll.
If Pee-wee had just, forget it, man, he's rolling. If Pee-wee had just printed up some flyers, he probably could have posted those up somewhere. Do you know what he would have used to create those flyers?
Huh.
Adobe.
Yeah. Should have seen that coming.
Yep.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the 30-something movie podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. It's actually been the last episode of the 30-something movie podcast.
We have overstayed our welcome, and
I will see myself out.
A cessation of hostilities.
Yes. All right. So yes, our movie this time around is Beethoven. And spoiler alert, we're going to spoil things. I mean, it's a movie about a big slobbery dog. I don't know how much you can spoil, but here's a spoiler. He gets dirty. He gets the house dirty. He slobbers everywhere. He eats a lot of food. And despite all that, he's lovable.
I'm just going to say, and I totally had my, oh my gosh.
This has been the 30-something movie podcast. I've described the whole movie in 5 seconds. Everybody be excellent to each other and whatever. I don't know.
You forgot to mention the bad vet.
Oh. Yes, there's the bad vet. I think his name is Dr. Vecna, Lord Vecna, something like that. Yeah. He's trying to experiment on dogs. He's a terrible, terrible person. The guy from the Hunger Games is there, and the guy that fixed up Robin Williams when he wanted to be a real boy in Bicentennial Man, he was there too. The end.
Cool.
And then for the bad guys, you got the Stanley Tucci and who was he?
Very young Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, I had to do like the triple take. I'm like, wait. Mm-hmm. Nice. And then who is this? Who is the other guy?
Oliver Platt.
Oh, Oliver Platt. Yeah. He was the one of the lawyers in The West Wing.
Yes,
he was.
Yep, he was also in the Disney Three Musketeers movie.
Yes, he was.
And he was the scientist that helped in Bicentennial Man. He helped the Robin Williams robot become more like a real boy.
Yeah, you had a lot of acting talent in this movie.
Yeah.
Are we going scattershot? I think we kind of interrupted the.
We are a little bit.
Us?
I got
never.
I got really high with my voice right there. I feel like I might have taken too much Minolpadir, Shania Twain.
I'm just gonna say. I typically don't do this, but I'm just gonna say, like, as an official like cat owner for the last month and a half.
Yeah.
The scene where the dog was just walking down the thing, and then all of a sudden, the one clip you get of the cat, and it's like all rare and nasty. I'm just like, you know what? I don't know if that's accurate representation. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But I don't want to be that guy, because then everyone's going to go, oh, so Cantagallo gets a cat for a month and a half, and suddenly he's all like,
you're getting a little salty about the cat representation here.
A little, not too much.
Do you feel like this movie is a white Saint Bernard narrative?
Is it a Saint Bernard apologist film?
Could be.
Oh my gosh. No, it's just a fun, cute.
Do you feel like Beethoven was big dogging that cat?
No.
Well, yes.
Beethoven, but Beethoven.
That's just because he's huge. I mean, there's no. I mean, what you gonna do?
He's huge. He's a big, beautiful dog. I don't know why I went there.
He's huge.
What are we doing? I don't even know what we're doing here.
Yeah, we started with a plan, and then the plan went awry, and here we are.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
It's true.
You said Ryan.
I'll tell you,
you said Ryan, then I wanted a sandwich.
Are
you a good witch or a bad witch?
Mike Tyson said that, I think.
I want a sandwich?
No, Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan, then they get punched in the face.
Yes, I know.
I love it when a plan comes together, unlike this one.
Oh, it came together. It just didn't come together well.
It came together. It's just like gluten-free graham crackers. The minute you touch them, they're just going to fall apart.
So basically,
why would you say anything that would ruin my stomach? So
all right. So I'll tell you a quick little story. We had I had won tickets to a Cubs game, and so my lovely wife and I went to a Cubs game, and we had a lot of fun. The Cubs sucked as usual.
They're terrible.
They were very terrible. In fact, there was a guy sitting in front of us, and he was so old. How old was he? That his phone was set to like the highest possible text.
Oh, goody.
The largest font, which I believe is called the Dennis. And so we could see everything that he was texting in front of us. And he was texting one of his buddies. His buddy's name was Lenny. And he was texting his buddy. He's like, this is the worst.
Was this dude's name Carl? Because if it was...
That would have been hilarious.
That would have been the best.
Yeah. He's texting his buddy. He's like, this is the worst game I've been to in my entire life. I was like, whoa. I'm like, it's not great, but I don't know if I'd say it's the worst one.
Huh. That's pretty hardcore.
But regardless, we were very, very happy because my wife is severely allergic to gluten. And so we were kind of worried. The last time we had not been to Wrigley Field in like 2 decades. And so the last time she was there, of course, we enjoyed a beverage and a hot dog, as you do when you go to a baseball game. And she was like, well, I'm not going to be able to do any of that. So I looked it up ahead of time, and I don't believe they have it on their menus, but if you ask at certain concessions vendors, they do have gluten-free hot dogs with the gluten-free buns and all that.
Nice.
Good.
So I did.
Good. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they are the same kind of hot dog buns that we can buy in the grocery store and bring home.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, when you look at them at a slightly wrong angle, they start to fall apart and crumble. That's just kind of that's kind of thing with all the like gluten-free stuff, is because it doesn't have the, I don't know if it doesn't, it uses like the,
It doesn't have the glue.
It doesn't have the glue from the gluten, and so yeah, it falls apart.
Dear. I am sorry.
No, it's like all those kids that used to eat glue in school. That's why they did it.
Why?
I don't know. I used to pick on those kids, so I don't know. Let's see. So far on my list of notes here, we're on bullet point number 2. Don't forget to visit our website, 30podcast.com. You can find all the stuff that's on there. Our Patreon group. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you want to do the same, go to 30podcast.com, go to the donate tab, check it out there. We've got bonus episodes that come out every month on there. But thank you so much to those. Those are our other loyal listeners as well that are helping to support the show each and every week. So thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. We're already pretty much all over the place. We're kind of like a dog chasing a car. Just wouldn't know what to do if I caught one. And apparently that's what we're doing with tonight's podcast. So let's just jump on into the movie, because I think we're there already. So the title of this one is Beethoven. It was released on the 3rd of April, 1992. And before anybody jumps on Twitter or email or anything like that, I know how it's pronounced. Okay, you just look at it. It's Beethoven.
Isn't it amazing what Twitter does? Like, really, people?
Oh, it's amazing what Twitter does. Let me tell you.
Really, people.
Pat, like, you're not even on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting back on my sitting back in the late 1990s, just like, what is everybody doing out there?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah,
it's just not right. I'm telling you.
We're all arguing on Twitter, and Pat's just trying to keep his Tamagotchi alive.
I just can never figure out why I come into work and like, okay, wait, why is everybody mad at each other? Oh, it was all set in the pretend world. Well, no wonder everyone. Yeah,
in the upside down.
Do you know what so and so thinks? No, I don't know what so-and-so thinks because I can't read their mind. Oh, they put it on Twitter. Well, I don't care. Because if they wanted me to know what they think, they tell me what they think. Otherwise, I just don't.
Why don't we start with, do I care what so-and-so thinks?
Yeah.
Nah,
that's a better question. That really
See, now you're getting to the heart of the matter, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I said it before, I'll say it again. Beethoven is our movie. I'm going to keep saying it, too. I used to have music, and I absolutely knew what I was doing. I used to drive some of my music teachers insane when I would continually refer to the composer as Beethoven in classes when I was a kid.
Would you say you drove them insane in the membrane?
Yes. I would say also I did it a plethora of times.
You would say a plethora then.
I would say a plethora. I had a plethora of opportunities.
Membrane.
Mm-hmm. This movie, we're never going to get through this movie. This movie came out on the 3rd of April, 1992, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour, 27 minutes, directed by Brian Levant, who also directed The Flintstones and Jingle All the Way. Writers for this one were John Hughes, although he shows up in the credits as Edmond Dantes, for those of you that have seen The Count of Monte Cristo or read the book. John Hughes died in 2009, also written by Amy Holden Jones. Hughes also wrote Weird Science and Uncle Buck. Jones wrote Mystic Pizza and Indecent Proposal. Producer Michael C. Gross, who died in 2015, and Joe Medchuk. Gross produced Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and Dave Medchuk produced Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and Space Jam. Music was done by Randy Edelman, who did Twins and Kindergarten Cop and Gettysburg. Cinematography done by Victor J. Kemper, who did Clue and National Lampoon's Vacation. Editors were William D. Gordian and Sheldon Kahn. Gordian or Gordine. I don't know if it's Gordian. Every time I say Gordian, I keep wanting to like mention a Gordian knot or something like that. And I don't think that's quite the same thing.
Oh, for his sake, I'm going to hope not.
If he messes up tying his shoes, that's what he's got. A Gordian knot. Either way, Gordian or Gordine did The Cannonball Run and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 movie. Khan did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Out of Africa. Budget was $18 million. Box office was, and that most of that I think was kibble. The box office was $147.2 million. Flickmetrics gives it a dismal 55%, and CinemaScore gives it an A.
That makes sense. I can see that. That makes sense.
Charles Grodin, who died in 2021, played George Newton. He was in Midnight Run and The Heartbreak Kid. Bonnie Hunt was Alice Newton. She was in Jumanji and Rain Man. Dean Jones died in 2015. He played Dr. Varnick. He was in The Love Bug and Clear and Present Danger. Nicole Tom played Rice. She was in The Nanny and Superman, the animated series. Christopher Castile, I don't know which one, played Ted. He was in Step by Step and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Sarah Rose Carr played Emily. She was in Kindergarten Cop and Father of the Bride. Oliver Platt played Harvey. He was in The Three Musketeers and Bicentennial Man. Stanley Tucci played Vernon. He was in Spotlight and The Hunger Games. David Duchovny played Brad. He was in The X-Files and Californication. Patricia Heaton played Bree. She was in Everybody Loves Raymond and Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Laurel Cronin, who died in 1992, played Devonia Pete. She was in A League of Their Own and Hook. Olan Jones played Biker Woman. She was in Edward Scissorhands and Mars Attacks. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt played, this was his first movie ever, he played Student Number 1. He was in Inception and Looper. Couple quick trivia things here. Steve Martin was the first choice to play George Newton. Others who also auditioned for the role were John Candy, Danny DeVito, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Jeff Goldblum, Rick Moranis, and Robin Williams. I think any one of those would have been pretty funny.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Steve Martin thing because I totally thought, wow, like Charles Grodin seems to be playing this just like Steve Martin in Father of the Bride.
Yeah.
It was just like the same.
It's that same older father, bumbling, frustrated old man kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, can you imagine the scene if, let's say, the character of George had gone to, let's say, Jeff Goldblum? Can you imagine the scene where George is talking with Brad and you've got Jeff Goldblum talking with David Duchovny? My friend. Chaos, you see. Yes. Like both, I can see both of them just, I feel like you'd feel like you were stoned if you were watching that scene.
Yeah. It'd be a whole different kind of chemistry.
Yeah. Let's see. The trainer for the dog of this movie was one Eleanor Keaton, who was the comedian and actor Buster Keaton's widow. The American Veterinary Association was so upset about the depiction of a veterinarian as the leader of a dog napping ring that they were very upset and fired off an angry letter to the head of the Motion Picture Association of America. So apparently the cat contingent and the veterinarian contingent were not happy with this movie.
It's the representation piece, man. It just
yeah. Well, we're all learning. We're all learning. We're trying to learn. We're trying to be open to learning. It's important. Screenwriter John Hughes, I said this one before, it was credited as Edmond Dantes, and this is one of the very few movies that he wrote that takes place outside of the state of Illinois. Otherwise, for the most part, it's pretty much always in Illinois.
There you go. Well, that's interesting.
All right, well, in this one, when George Newton's family decides to adopt a St. Bernard puppy, the patriarch quickly feels outnumbered by the animal. Beethoven, the cute dog, quickly outgrows his little size, causing problems in the house. George's wife and children love Beethoven, but it takes him some time to recognize his more admirable traits. However, when a cunning vet tries to kidnap the puppy for a lethal experiment, Beethoven's life with the Newton family is put in danger.
Throughout the history of motion pictures, there have been many big dog stars. Toto had a big adventure. Petey had a big appetite. Rin Tin Tin was a big hero. And Lassie had a big heart.
You've come back!
But now, Ivan Reitman, who brought you Ghostbusters, Kindergarten Cop, and Twins, proudly presents the biggest dog star of them all. Beethoven.
No!
Wherever there's trouble, wherever there's danger,
Oh my gosh, Emily's in the pool!
wherever there's food,
What?
Oh, I just love these big dumb animals.
Look who's coming to the rescue.
Whoa! Dad!
Honey.
With a little help from his friends.
Sickle, boys!
Really, hon, I never found you more attractive.
We're going in!
It's not even Saturday night. Oh, she drive me crazy.
George, who are you talking to?
Charles Grodin. Beethoven.
All right, so what I couldn't quite tell from the trailer there, it sounded almost like for a second that they had dubbed over, or they hadn't quite finished the voice work when Beethoven is shaking off all the mud and the slobber and everything else, and you've got Charles Grodin kind of going, no, like that, and it doesn't sound like his voice. I mean, I would have to go back to the movie and play that part over again, but it almost sounded like a little bit of like It's Pat from SNL.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the dog slobber. I don't know. Or a little bit of like a
Flavin'.
Yes, it was a little SpongeBobby, just a little bit. I don't know. It sounded a little weird the first time I heard it in the trailer there. But all right. As we usually start off with, we have our major moments in the movie, so we're going to run through we're going to kind of hop, skip, and jump through the plot here, covering some of the major moments in the movie, and we will kind of fill the gaps in between there. We'll try to reserve some of our opinions for our Deep Thoughts segment, so this is more of just a getting you through the plot. If it's been a while since you've watched this one, or if you haven't watched it before, we always recommend that you pause, go watch the movie, and come back, but if not, we will get you up to speed. All right, so the very beginning of the movie is Beethoven, one of these puppies, manages to escape from a crime that is taking place, and the Newton family ends up finding him. We get introduced to the family and introduced to the idea that the dad does not like dogs whatsoever. It's a little bit of a Shaggy Dog moment. Did you guys ever watch the old Disney movie, The Shaggy Dog?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Was a little bit of that. A little bit of the dad doesn't like dogs, and it's not really a secret.
Right.
Not a fan at all. But we get a little bit of a second major moment here. We get a little bit of a subplot going on for just a tad. We've got Brad and Bree, who are played by David Duchovny and Patricia Heaton, are trying to negotiate this deal with George for his air freshener business, and they're trying to swindle him out of this business. And I really got some Christmas Vacation vibes from this. I really wanted David Duchovny at some point to just turn to her and be like, I don't know, Margot.
Right? Like it's such a similar feel.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah. What is this doing in our living room?
Something had to get the carpet wet, Todd.
I don't know, Margot.
Hi.
So Brad and Bree. Instead of Todd and Margot, we have Brad and Bree this time around. And Beethoven, as he is growing up, there was already some funny bits that we kind of skipped over just a little bit when they're trying to give Beethoven his name. Of course, I don't know, with the pets in your house, was there much of a debate over naming your pets?
No, not in my house, but that was because it was all about bribery.
Well, yeah.
Our pet was named by the foster mother, the person that fostered it. And then there was about 12 hours of discussion of what we were going to change it to. And then I just called the audible and just said, hey, guess what? We're leaving the pet the name that it knows. We're not going to change it. We're not going to just.
Yeah.
The cat already has a name.
Yeah.
We're not changing it.
I'm
so that was
dude.
That's right. So that's the way it went in our house. We avoided the conundrum that was represented in the movie.
Your cat's name is the Dude. Any other name that anybody tried to come up with, it should have just been like, yeah, well, that's just like your opinion.
Your opinion, man.
Yeah. Pat,
me a White
I am
Russian.
I am a little shocked, Pat, that you became the proud owner of a pet with claws, and you didn't name it Logan.
Indeed.
You know, like I said, there was all that, and I started falling into it too. Oh, what about Logan? Oh, what about that? But then it just was like,
yeah.
Well, Dad, what we can do is we can each have a name for the cat. So it can be Logan, Fuzzy Foot, Fuzzy Butt, Fluffykins, Meowster, or I don't know. And then it was like, okay, like, guys, we're done. The cat's name is that, like, we're done. Yeah. Because I fell into it too, so it just.
Which, oddly enough, when Wolverine first appeared in the comics back in 19 whatever, Chris Claremont, one of his first creators, that was his name. It was Logan, Fuzzy Butt, Fluffy Foot, something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always what I think of when I think of the Wolverine characters. Just fluffy.
Eventually, just for simplicity's sake, a lot of those other names fell by the wayside. But originally, he was Logan, Fuzzy Butt, Fluffy Nutter. I don't know.
Fluffy Nutter.
Yeah.
How was it?
Nutter, huh?
How was it in your house, John? Naming the dog. Was it a big discussion like here?
Yeah, it was. We had a list of like 19 or 20 names, and that was even before because we went to go see him, and then we couldn't go back and get him until the next day.
Right.
And so that was a little precarious too because we weren't even guaranteed that we would be able to come back and pick him up. Like if somebody came that morning and got there before us, then they could adopt him immediately and it would all be done and there'd be no dog. So that night before, like we were coming up with all these names in the back of my mind, I'm like, that dog better be there in the morning because we've gone through this whole
that could have been
process.
awkward, huh?
But we did at the time, and I'm glad we went with what we did because at the time, like some of the names everybody was coming up with were a little bit more, I don't know. Everybody was, not that they're not Star Wars fans now, but some of the names were like very centered on what Star Wars movie had we seen recently.
Yeah.
So like one of the names, and it would have been fine. It would have been a totally fine name for a dog. One of the finalist names was Finn.
Okay.
One of the other finalist names was Ollie because we'd been watching a lot of Green Arrow and The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we had several finalist names. I ended up kind of making and everybody's fine with it. I ended up making the final decision because I had a stuffed animal dog from when I was a really little kid named Toby, and so that was like
perfect.
The final. I was like, nope, that's what his name is going to be. That's what we're going with. Done. Final answer. Lock it in.
Yes.
But there is a funny scene where they're trying to come up with.
Gotta make the call.
Executive decision. Yeah, so there's a funny scene in here where they're trying to come up with names, and
this is funny. This is funny.
I don't think words for parts of the body make very good names.
Yeah,
he's got one of those. I looked. I'm sure he does, but I don't think Daddy would want to stand on the porch at night yelling that out. But that's what you call Uncle Richard.
that scene, that writing fell so well for me. I mean, that was like laugh out loud. I'm like, okay, this is pretty funny. This is good.
My favorite was you asked for my input.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's something I would do.
Yeah.
I would be that guy. I'm that guy.
He's a dog. He doesn't have preferences. You could call him Ding Dong Head and he wouldn't know the difference. Which, oddly enough, was not one of our 19 to 20 choices when we were coming up with the name.
Ding Dong Head.
Yeah, no. What was the... we're a family-friendly podcast, so I can't repeat it. The name of Steve Martin's dog in The Jerk?
I don't remember.
Don't remember?
To be honest.
Yeah.
No.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Well, now we all got to look it up because
it's a name that can't be repeated. But
okay.
Let's do it this way. You remember our friend Jason Kale that used to teach with us? And you remember how he said that he had a friend, I think he had a friend in college who was from either an Asian country or a Middle Eastern country, and their name was Shathid?
Okay.
Like their actual name was Shathid. But if you sound that out and separate it a bit, it's spelled exactly the way you think it is.
Uh-huh.
That's the name of Steve Martin's dog in The Jerk.
Yeah, that's funny. I did not remember that. Yeah. That's good stuff.
So if you're naming animals, loyal listeners, if you're naming animals, don't use that name. Or don't use the name Uncle Richard either.
Those are 2 names to avoid.
Keep those off the list. And so we do get the kind of the other subplot, or I guess kind of main plot, going here of Dr. Varnick is an evil vet that is doing some experiments and needs, for some reason, absolutely needs Beethoven. He's the one that got away. So he needs Beethoven for this experiment. And so he's doing what he can to try to get Beethoven back, and actually frames him, makes it look like he bit him and that he needs to be euthanized. In the midst of all this stuff, we do get some funny scenes with Stanley Tucci and Oliver Platt as the kind of bumbling henchmen.
Because every evil vet needs henchmen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who else is going to take the dog's temperature? I mean, the vet's not doing that.
Very true.
He's not going to get his hands dirty. He's going to make the henchman do that. It all works out in the end. So that is major moment number 3. Major moment number 4 is George finally confronts Varnick. He noticed he goes in and tries to save. This is when he kind of realizes, no, maybe I do actually love this dog, or at least my family does. So I got to go save him. We can't let him be euthanized for this because, that's not going to work out well. And so he goes and confronts him and notices that he has no bite marks on his arm. So either 'twas but a flesh wound and healed quickly.
He got better.
He got better. I think I'm feeling much better. I think I'll go for a walk. But there is no wound on his arm. So he confronts him, finds out that he's a bad dude that's been doing some bad things. And his whole family shows up, and he punches him out right then and there. And that's he kind of redeems himself in the eyes of his family at that point. A couple other things we skipped over a little bit is that Beethoven spends most of this movie, while he is causing mischief and slobbering everywhere and getting mud everywhere and doing all the things that a dog does in one of these movies, like a Turner and Hooch river of slobber moment, which oddly enough I think is probably where the river of slime came from in Ghostbusters 2. It was the Hellhounds from Ghostbusters 1 that just slobbered into the subways of New York City, and that's where that came from. But in the midst of all that, in the midst of his dogly mischief, he is doing some other things where he is taking care of all the kids. You know, he's kind of the hero in several different moments when you've got the terrible babysitter. You know, and this movie should also be a PSA for putting up a fence around your pool. But he's got the moment where he saves the little girl from drowning. He helps the boy with the bullies, which I thought that scene like reminded me of something else. He was chasing the bullies into an alley and they all ran into a dumpster.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I felt like I had seen that somewhere before. But I don't know. Pat, how did you feel about that scene? Because I know you hate fantasy stories.
I was excited. I was like, all right, the dog's going to stand up for him. That's great. And then he growled and the kids kind of ran away. I was like, well, maybe he could have jumped on them, maybe slobbered on them a little bit, like something. But I get it. Dogs attacking kids. I want to show, so.
He's a luck dragon.
Indeed.
And then he helps the eldest daughter to find a way to break the ice a little bit with this boy that she's crushing on. So he has helped out the family in all kinds of different ways, brought them closer together in the midst of all of his hijinks that he performs. Then as we finish off the movie, the last major moment is Varnick is arrested for animal abuse, and apparently all dogs don't go to heaven. They go to the Newtons' house. So the dad, who is not a big fan of dogs, now has a house full of dogs by the end of the movie. That is pretty much it for the major moments. Is there anything I missed?
No, you've got his complete change of heart because he fell in love with a dog.
It's time to go just a little bit deeper.
And now, deep thoughts.
You know what scene would be crazy? If you had a conversation. Now I'm starting to think of like the SNL. When SNL would do those skits of like it would be the fake compilation albums that they would put out, and it was like Tarzan, Frankenstein, and gosh, what was the other one? It was like Tarzan, Frankenstein, and somebody else who like they grunt a lot. It was them singing a Christmas album. Now I'm picturing with the Keanu Reeves, whoa, there. Now what I'm picturing is a scene where you have David Duchovny, Jeff Goldblum, and Keanu Reeves having a three-way conversation with each other. I would love to see that movie.
Yes.
I would pay slightly big money to see that. I think it would be kind of fun.
Would be pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But just slightly big.
Just slightly big. Not like St. Bernard big, but like
sure.
Beagle big.
beagle big.
Yeah. All right. Initial thoughts on this one. We'll throw it right out there. Do you like this movie?
I do. I liked it when it came out. It reminds me of just fun family movies from back in the day.
Did you see it when it first came out?
Yeah, I think we did.
No, I think we did too. I think we went to the theater for it.
I'm not like 100% sure of that, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we saw it in the theater. It's probably more rental, but you get the idea.
Patrick, do you like this movie?
I do. It's fun.
You sound pensive about it.
It's anti-cat, so he's having to weigh his words.
It's anti-cat.
That's fair.
Yeah, if you asked me 2 months ago, I would have been all in. Right. No, it's a fun movie. I think the kids do a fantastic job in it. You know, Charles Grodin is great in it. The bad guys are dastardly in it. The yuppies are fun. It's all right there. There's one shred of me. Do you guys remember The West Wing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first season when I think it's the 6 meetings before lunch, and the cold open is Toby walking in, and he's just like, guys, I feel great today. What a great day. And he sees his assistants and all that. And he says, you look wonderful today. And they all look at him. They're like, oh, okay. Thank you. And he's being nice to people, and he's complimenting people. And he's just, this, I feel great. And there's something. And then he's like, there's something wrong with me. Someone's got to snap me out of this. And he's just feeling good about everything. And then the very end is, and what was the gal? She played like their lawyer, and she was on for 1 season. Her and Josh had a relationship previously. What was that character's name? She was only on for 1 season. She had dark hair.
Oh gosh, I just had this conversation with somebody.
Anyways, that gal comes walking into a Toby.
Wasn't Mandy, was it?
Yes.
Mandy.
Okay.
Mandy. And Mandy comes in, and Toby is just like, he's totally out of character. He's totally having a great day. And they're like, she's like, Toby? He's like, yes, Mandy, you name it. I somewhat like, help me snap out. I'm just in such a good mood. You got to snap me out of this. Help me. And she goes, well, okay. Can you work with me and contact the Chinese government to send us a replacement for Lum Lum the panda bear? And then they push into Toby, and Toby's face is just like frozen. And he's like, well, that did it. And then they like crash right into the thing. And that's there's one shred of me that just kind of felt like I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, okay, normally I don't go in for the cutesy end, but this is great. And it's so fun. And then it's just like, it just kind of, it at one point it just pushed a little bit where I'm just like, okay, I just kind of snapped out of it. Like, all right, this is a little, but then I took a deep breath, and I'm like, what? If I was watching this with my kids, they would be going nutso and loving it. And so I banished that thought. Because I'm like, I'm being too intense on the movie. I got to see it for what it is. And then I snapped right back, and I went back to loving it 100%.
Yeah.
That was my journey. That was my Beethoven journey.
Good journey. I'm still thinking about the West Wing episode. Then get us 2 regular bears, a bucket of white paint, a bucket of black paint. Next case.
Someone snapped me out of it. Well,
that did it.
That did it. I mean, that's what I think it was. Is but then when I was starting to be the grumpy person watching the movie, then all of a sudden, like Stanley, Tucci, and the other lawyer guy were like, they were just hilarious, right? I mean, they had that fantastic scene. I mean, I think it was at the end they were taunting the dogs, and then they turned around, and there was was it pit bulls, or what was it? No, not pit bulls. It was it Rottweilers?
It was Dobermans.
And there, whatever, there was like Dobermans.
Yeah.
That's right. And there was like 4 or 5 of them, and the guy's like, that was fun.
I do like, was it Oliver Platt that had the part, and he was like, all right, I'm just really excited. This is my first felony. I've committed a lot of misdemeanors, but I think this is my very first felony.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could just watch an entire movie of those 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a fun movie. It really truly was. It was a fun movie. It was different. And I think that's part of why I got like the grumpy old man kind of thing for a second, is Turner and Hooch had a real serious undertone to it.
Yeah.
Canine, like that one had. I mean, it was those were different movies than what this was, and I'm really glad that this movie is what it is. Even though at first I'm like, oh well, it's not doing the same thing Turner and Hooch did. That's okay because I can watch this. I can watch this with really young kids and not worry about them having nightmares or me answering questions that are like, okay, well, this is, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
So, Bo, you talked about watching this one and just kind of have the memories of watching like the fun family film. Like, what are some of the things when you knew this one was coming up on the show? What were some of the things that were like most memorable about it?
The stuff I love is the dumb like dog stuff when he digs out underneath the fence and escapes and Charles Grodin catches him running back in and he goes, that's how you did it. You know, of course that's how he did it. He's a dog. The Charles Grodin character not knowing what a dog is like is some of the best stuff. You know, and watching him learn what it's like to have a furry friend is cool, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Charles Grodin just pulls that off so well. It seemed to have like the tropes in it. The dad that's out of touch with the family and buried in his work and the dog. But you don't kind of roll your eyes with it because I think Charles Grodin just did such a fantastic job with that role. All the actors did. Because like I said, it was the way he delivered that, the looks and the faces and you really you could empathize with that.
Right.
The list of people that we rattled off when we were doing the trivia part and talking about who else was up for the role of George. Of that list of people, I'm thinking there's only 2 people that I think could have taken on this role and have made it the movie that it is. The rest of them, I think it would be a very different movie. And the 2, and you guys have already commented on a little bit, Charles Grodin or Steve Martin. I think either one of those 2, because Charles Grodin does such a great job of he does have that kind of like Steve Martin attitude about him. He's a little bit of the grumpy dad kind of a persona, but he warms up when he needs to. I mean, it's very much like Father of the Bride, very, very much like that. Except he doesn't have to pay for a dress for the dog. But other than that,
but he probably would have if they asked.
Probably
by the end,
probably just pounds and pounds and pounds of kibble.
Yeah,
yeah. Never owned a dog, really. Only really dog sat for littler dogs. Never quite well, no, that's a lie. I did dog sit for dogs that big once. I don't remember a bag of food that big, but it was pretty big. It's sort of impressive how much those larger animals can do.
Yeah. I still will never forget, we were going, before we had pets, we have a lot of, my wife puts up a lot of bird feeders around the yard. And so we would go through bird seed quite a bit. And one of our favorite places that we used to go to pick up more bird seed was, there's this like, it's kind of like a feed supply store that's in a nearby town, Grays Lake. If you guys have ever been to that, it's like right by the railroad tracks as you go into downtown Grays Lake. And we'd go in there and we'd pick up bird seed and do that. And I remember going in there one time with my son John when he was little. He was probably 3, maybe 4 at the time, probably about 3. We go in there and we're going to pick up some bird seed. And of course, people walk in with their animals all the time. Like they'll bring their dogs in. There's dog treats in the store. There's all kinds of other stuff. This lady walks in with a Great Dane. And I remember John just like, I could tell I was holding his hand at the time and his entire body just tensed up and froze. And he like started tugging on my hand. He's like, Dad, why did that lady bring her horse into the store?
Yeah.
I said, well, first of all, buddy, that's not a horse. That's a dog. No, it's not. No, it actually is a dog. No, it's not. That's a horse. And there was no way I could convince him that was not a horse. But those things are huge. I can't even imagine how much. I mean,
yeah,
our little dog, if you gave him enough, he'd eat all of it, but he doesn't eat anywhere near that much. God, I can't even imagine how big, like that St. Bernard, like how much food you got to go through with one of those. If we have any listeners who own St. Bernards, we'd love to hear more about how you afford to feed them and how many liquor stores you knock over every month. Inquiring minds want to know. All right. Do we? I feel like we've said pretty much what we need to say about Beethoven. It's kind of it's a cute, fun family movie. It's it's along the same vein, like you said, Pat. It doesn't have as serious of some of the undertones of like a Turner and Hooch kind of a deal. It's a little bit more lighthearted than that, but it's still got some of the same similar beats to one of those. Anything else we need to say about this one?
No, it's just a fun family movie.
Yeah. I remember watching it with the kids for the first time a couple years ago, and they loved it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, in that case, we are on to 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right. 3 questions. Question number 1. Actually, before we get to question number 2, we weren't recording at the time, but Pat did let his displeasure known about question number 2. So when we get there, there may be a bit of a tussle here because Pat got angry at me for question number 2 that I asked.
No, there's not going to be any anger. I'm just gonna make sure to answer the question. I'm gonna drink my drink. 1 drink.
You spoke harsh words.
I spoke harsh words.
Yeah. I got a little scared. I got a little scared there for a second.
That was just my knee-jerk reaction.
Okay. All right.
He's going to reject your reality and substitute his own.
Okay. There we go. As you do. Question number 1. What's the largest animal you'd be comfortable being locked in a room with?
That's an interesting one. Probably a large dog, like a Mastiff or a Saint Bernard or something. Like, I thought about a horse. I'm pretty comfortable around horses, but locked in a room? I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting question that I got way too deep on. I mean, it depends on how the animal is trained and how much do I know the animal, right? Like, we have some family with very big dogs, and it's just like, the dog is like a sweetheart. Like, I know the dog, like, all good, man. My kids have started riding horses. We've gotten to know some of the horses at the barn, okay, like, I'd be totally fine with that. Yeah. But if I didn't know the animal, it could be a small dog, and I'd be like, yeah, do I really want to be locked in the room with this thing? You know what I'm saying? So
you basically have a little Chihuahua sitting in the corner going, I'm not locked in here with you.
Yeah.
You're locked in here with me.
Well, and then it's like, what happens if the Chihuahua is rabid? You know what I'm saying? Like, there were so many different variances and conundrums and all that presented itself with this question. You know what I'm saying?
Pat, I do know what you're saying.
Pat just rejected your question.
I think that's what you're saying.
Maybe that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I'm saying.
You're just fired up for the next question. That's the thing.
I am fired up for the next question.
I can see you like flexing right now, like you're ready to get into a fight over this.
I want to know what animal you will be locked in the room with.
The largest one I'd be willing to be locked in a room with, I think. See, I was trying to say, like, how big do you go? I'm like, I don't think I'd want to be locked in a room with a horse, because as much as I think horses can be very kind animals, they are also very large and very powerful.
Yeah, you ever seen them rear up and kick?
Yeah, no. So I don't think so. So the largest animal, and I guess maybe depending on the size of the room too, the largest animal I'd be willing to be locked in a room with, I'm going to go with a cow. Because cows are pretty docile. I mean, they're big, but they're also they're just there. And not that I ever participated, but I know you can tip them.
True that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. There it is.
Yeah. All right. The moment that we've been waiting for. It's 3 questions. Question number 2. What is your favorite Beethoven composition?
one composition.
Yes.
You're supposed to pick one composition.
One piece only, please.
You guys ever seen Aaron Brockovich?
I have.
Yes, I'm wondering what line you're about to use.
I want to see that just pisses me off right there.
Okay. I was wondering, like, where are you going to fit in the line that ends with "I'm very tired"?
Go ahead, Bo. Why don't you lead off with this one?
Well, mine's probably a little simplistic, but
it's Beethoven. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answer.
There you go.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm shouting at the heavens. Understood.
And unfortunately, I'm the not really good with this, so I'm not sure if I really like the whole symphony or if I just like one piece of it. But the Ode to Joy section of the Ninth Symphony is it's classic, it's wonderful, it's fantastic, it's everything, you know.
Yeah.
So that's probably mine.
That's just amazing.
For me, I kind of went back and forth on a couple of different pieces. I really like the Moonlight Sonata.
Indeed.
I think the one I got to go with, though, and it's for, again, for like simplistic reasons, is I think I'm going to go with Für Elise. And the reason I'm going to go with that is because one of our very, very first computers that we had, there were a couple of little tunes. I think it would play, like the startup sound was Eine kleine Nachtmusik. But I think it would also play Für Elise at some point. And those were, like, as a kid, my dad worked for Texas Instruments, so we always had computers. But it was I may be mixing this up. I think one of our first home computers was an IBM PC Junior, and I want to say it had a couple of little like MIDI sounding tunes that it would play, and I'm pretty sure Für Elise was one of them. And so I just remember being just floored at the time as a kid that like a computer would play sound without being hooked up to a TV or anything else. I was like, whoa, this thing can play music? That's cool. It basically was like a little kid playing Für Elise on a xylophone, but, you know, very simplistic. But I don't know. It seemed to me as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old maybe, it seemed really cool at the time.
And I don't want to tell you what your thoughts are, but it's like
I'd prefer if you didn't.
I'm not trying to do that. I don't want to come across like that. But what hits me is that
you've been Pat-splained. God, I'm getting the chance to use all of them tonight.
The power of what he wrote comes through even when it's just through a computer sound. I mean, that's what it's like, man, you can
the simplicity is
the simplicities, but I mean it still has all that punch. Right? It still has so
all right, Pat, I apologize in
question.
advance, but what's your
You know what? I went back and forth and back and forth and forth. I mean, it was
back and to the left.
And so my favorite Beethoven composition would have to be his 9 symphonies. Okay. I'm just going to say all 9 symphonies because and it's funny because I did not listen to much music other than jazz music until I got to college, right? Like when I was in like 7th and 8th grade, that's right when I got into like 80s rock. And so I would listen to that, but like majority of stuff I listened to was like jazz and all that. I had a passing knowledge of classical music and all that. And it was when I got to college that suddenly, you had to take music history classes. And then all the senior students in the studio were like, you've never heard a Mahler symphony. You've never heard a Beethoven. Well, I probably heard it, but
how dare
and then
you?
And then it was kind of like, it's like going through life holding your breath. Dude, take a breath. Oxygen is pretty good. Like that kind of thing. And I remember like when suddenly we sat down and they were like, okay, we're going to tonight, come on over to our house. We're going to listen to all 9 Beethoven symphonies. Right. And it was sort of like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, where suddenly the camera shakes and it's like, give me more kind of thing. And it was a pretty awesome experience because it was like everything was new and it was exciting, blah, 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 blah. And Beethoven's music just always, and I mean, Beethoven is one of the names that even if you're not a music person, everybody knows Beethoven. Now they might have to like, okay, is he the one that did this but you know, it's like the household name. And I love,
it's a household name.
It is. And I love full symphonies, orchestra music. And it's just, his 9 symphonies are just amazing. And like, I'm going to get on a little bit on the music teacher, like, dude, would someone shut that guy up kind of thing. But it's like, if you look at his symphonies from 1 through 9, it is such a transition from the high classical period and the forms and everything there. And then he would put his little wrinkles and changes and experimentation in it that as you listen, you hear it transition into the Romantic era and really sets up all the music that came in the period that followed it, a lot of which is like a direct influence on the movie composer music. You know what I'm saying? So he did such amazing work just advancing what you could do with music as a whole. And the other thing is, like, for some reason, like the stuff he writes, for me, has such emotional impact. The stuff that's anguish, you feel it. The stuff that's triumphant, it's epic. The stuff that's supposed to be humorous, you laugh out loud with what he's doing. And I mean, it's just, like I said, I'm very, very taken with the music. And then when you throw in that he suffered from like tinnitus and like he had that ringing, he couldn't hear, and it was more than just deafness. Like he had this constant ringing in it, and that's like, that was what he was dealing with, and the depression that, you know, and all this kind of thing, you just hear that in his music. So if I had to pick a favorite composition, I would say the 9 symphonies. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, if anyone needs a recommendation, check out Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the complete Beethoven recordings directed by Sir George Solti. Phenomenal. Again, everybody out there that's like throwing things at their TV while listening to us, it's like, yes, I know there's other orchestras that do phenomenal jobs. And yes, I'm biased because I'm a trumpet player and I'm from Chicago. So of course I'm going to say CSO, but it's amazing music. And it's just like listen to it. It is amazing music. If that's all I had to listen to for the rest of my life, okay, then okay. I mean, it is amazing music.
So before we go on to question number 3, I do want to interject really fast and say, I think, Bo, was it you or was it Jeff or somebody forwarded me something on Facebook about the CSO, and they're doing those live movie performances where they show the movie and then they play the music live.
Yeah, like they do at Ravinia.
Yeah. This year the CSO is doing Amadeus.
Oh, very nice.
And I'm like,
and you already have tickets, right, John?
Oh, I might be getting tickets soon.
Yeah.
The other ones are doing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. They're doing The Force Awakens. They're doing The Princess Bride, and I feel like there might have been one other one that I'm completely blanking out on. The other thing, though, in the midst of all this, I think it might be in February or March, John Williams is going to guest conduct, and he's going to
awesome.
They're going to do some of his music. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look up the schedule, because I looked at it and I was like, I don't know if I can bring myself to pay that much for a ticket, but it would be a lot of fun. I could. Yeah.
You could.
I mean,
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
And like I said, and I yeah, man, it's just, there's so much great music out there. And even like, and I'm just going to, and just put it on mute and go to question 3 and ignore me. But I mean, even if people think, oh man, that's just out of my wheelhouse, or I don't understand it and all that, go see a performance, right? And I mean, there's times that even if it's a local symphony or a local ensemble, or you get to a summer festival somewhere, or your local symphony, There's matinees, and like, I just encourage you to check out music out there that maybe you're not comfortable with. Do a little research on it. You don't have to do like read term papers, but read like the program notes, because there's such humanity in this incredibly well-written, like a Beethoven symphony. It's like you'll experience a lifetime in listening to it, and it's just so masterfully written. So, anyways, but all of Beethoven's music, and like I said, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, and it's going to be a lifetime of study to get it. So, and I'm going long-winded, and I'm just going to say a book recommendation. If anyone's interested, check out Beethoven's Hair by, I think the author's last name is Martin. I want to say George Martin, but that sounds like the guy that did.
It's like Game of Thrones.
That's Game of Thrones. I can't remember what the guy's name was. Russell Martin.
Martin Russell.
Martin Russell. Okay, I had it reversed.
The Mysteries of Beethoven's Hair.
Yes, and it's incredible. And the quick byline is, when Beethoven died, one of his young apprentices or assistants or someone clipped a lock of his hair, which I guess was common, and then held on to it. And then it traces kind of what was happening with Beethoven. It traces where this hair went. Somehow they kept it out of the hands of the Nazis and through war-torn Europe and all that kind of thing, to where it was discovered. Now, this book might even be 15, 20 years old at this point, but it was discovered, and they did, well, at the time, modern forensic analysis on it, and found out kind of what Beethoven's cause of death was, why he was losing and found out all this information about Beethoven. And then they go back and kind of talk a little bit about Beethoven. I mean, it is an awesome book, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's very cool stuff.
Was that also the story I heard where they took that lock of hair and it eventually ended up in the hands of Lex and Lenny Luthor?
Yeah.
And they attached it to a nuke that then got thrown into the sun, and it became a very musical nuclear man.
It is a very, very musical nuclear man.
Yeah.
So now question 3, we just discussed like symphonies and that. Question 3 is about his Lake String Quartets, right?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you what my feelings are on those.
Pat's got questions 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like hurricanes. We're going to start going into like the Greek letters.
Yeah. Well, all I'm going to say is thank you guys for letting me indulge something that I get pretty excited about. And I'm still too ignorant about it for my own good. But I love Beethoven's music, and it's just, go check it out. So I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. I let you keep talking for 2 reasons. Number 1, because you are very passionate about it, and it's fun to hear you geek out about it, because we know next to nothing about music.
And because I was screaming at you before we started recording.
No. Reason number 2 is I don't happen to have on my soundboard just yet the Oscars music that you start playing when the speaker is speaking too long.
There it is.
Once I get
on that.
Once I get that, then it'll be done. But
yeah.
All right,
yeah,
question number 3.
Right,
favorite movie with an animal in a leading role?
Oh, this is hard.
And you are also, even though I don't know exactly what he is, you're also free to choose Animal from the Muppets, if that's your animal.
Oh, well, now.
Woman!
Well, if you want Animal in a leading role, I've always loved, and I believe it's coming up in a couple of months, or perhaps next year, The Incredible Journey. Or Homeward Bound.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that might be next year.
I know this is that weird time of year where we just voted on next year's movies, so yeah. I'm all confused.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one's next year.
So cool.
No, that's a good one. Patrick, what do you got?
I'm going to say Jaws, but does that count?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I'm going to say Jaws, because Jaws is one of my top 10 movies.
If I felt like you were jumping the shark, I'd let you know.
Yeah, there it is. And go back and listen to our 40th or 45th, whatever anniversary we did of Jaws. Yeah. But Jaws is such a great movie on so many different levels. I guess ironic that I'm going to pick it for an animal movie, because I guess if people were going to pick the one knock on it is that it kind of misrepresents sharks a little bit, kind of makes them into the big evil monsters as opposed to just animals that are we encroaching in their area? Like that whole discussion. So
that's okay, because the one I'm going to pick totally misrepresents that breed of animal too. So
there it is. So I guess I'd say Jaws. I'd go back and listen to a recording, but yeah, tons of fun movie. And that's what I have to say about that. We were also big Benji fans.
Yes.
Did anybody ever watch? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, love the Benji movies.
Yeah.
They actually filmed one of the Benji movies in a town that I lived in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They filmed part of one of the Benji movies in McKinney, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I guess I'd have to just throw on there the honorable mentions. Like I grew up, we loved the Black Stallion.
Mm-hmm.
That what a wonderful movie that was. And all the horse movies that are out now. Secretariat's really good. Yeah.
I was surprised you didn't list a movie with a pair of humpback whales named George and Gracie.
You could
well,
say
you want to say lead character. I don't know if that, but yes, I agree. George and Gracie always win.
Mm-hmm.
She is not your whale. So mine is I'm going to go like way far back for mine, and as you said, Pat, mine is going to very much misrepresent the species of animal that is the featured character in this movie. I am going all the way back to, and now that I think about it, maybe we'll do an episode on this next year, all the way back to 1933.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with the Fay Wray, Marion Cooper, Bruce Cabot, Robert Armstrong, King Kong.
Oh, there you go.
I cannot tell you the amount of times I watched that movie growing up as a kid. Just over and over and over again. I loved that movie as a kid. So that's going to be mine. Yes, there are all kinds of lovable examples of, Turner and Hooch and Benji and, all that stuff. But if I think of one of the movies that just has an animal as one of the major characters and one that I just was enamored with from day one, I got to go with the original 1933 King Kong.
There you go. There you go.
Fay Wray is such a screamer. I don't know if you don't get too many chances to scream like that as much anymore in Hollywood movies, but
yeah,
that would be a good 3 question. Like, what person do you think could scream as well as some of those older movie actresses like Fay Wray and
right?
I don't know. That's mine though. I'm gonna go with the big ape. Could have gone with like Planet of the Apes.
Could have gone Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia.
I'm gonna stick with King. Oh, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah.
Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah. Island of Dr. Moreau.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good movie. It's entertaining. It's not a good movie. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stick with King Kong. Fun comic book though, since we're giving recommendations. You gave the book recommendation. I'm gonna give a fun comic book recommendation. A few years ago, there was I got to make sure I get the company right. I think it's Boom Comics did a limited series, and it was Kong on the Planet of the Apes.
Oh.
So it was King Kong somehow ended up in the midst of the Planet of the Apes characters. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was very crazy and kind of fun.
Yeah. That's interesting.
All right. Very, very quickly. I don't know if I've mentioned this before while we've been recording, but from time to time, I will post up if we mention something. So like the Beethoven's Hair book that Pat mentioned, and typically if I mention, the comic book or something like that, I've tried to send out some links on Facebook and Twitter and those kind of places to Amazon with some of the things that we've talked about, if they are things that you can purchase. So to go get a copy of the movie King Kong, to go get a copy of the Mysteries of Beethoven's Hair book, things like that. If you do that, that is one other way. If you're not one of our Patreon co-executive producers, or even if you are, that is another way you can help support the show. It's part of one of the Amazon Associates programs. So if you purchase things through those links, then a little bit of that comes back to us and just kind of helps keep the lights on here. So if you do that, I will tend to send those out from time to time usually when we're about to put out one of our episodes, I will send out some links with some related to merchandise. So for the merchandising, feel free to click on those links and go check those out. All right, gents, that's going to do it for Beethoven. What do we got coming up here soon? We have got, that's actually finishing us off for the month of July, and August is zooming right ahead. We are about 2/3 of the way through this year so far. And if you thought Pat was excited to talk about Beethoven and his musical compositions, our August Patreon is Best Motorcycle Movies.
Strap in, everybody.
Yeah, man.
If you want to hear Pat transform from human into a pile of goo, feel free to come listen to our Patreon episode in which he begins to talk about Best Motorcycle Movies and just completely pulls a Constable Odo and just melts into the floor.
That's right.
No.
I've been holding this state too long. I need to revert to my liquid state.
There you go. I don't need the bucket anymore. Mr. Bucket. So that is our Patreon episode. Buckets are fun. So that's our Patreon episode coming up soon. Our Patreon shorts, we've got a couple of Patreon short episodes that are coming up. I've been talking with Jeff a little bit, and he wants to try to get on to some of those. So we might do something Stranger Things related for one of those. I have no idea how we're going to keep that to 15 minutes, so I'm not sure that can be a Patreon short episode. But one of our Patreon shorts I'm not sure about for the month of August. We're still working that one out. The other one will be the movie Creep Show from 1982. I watched that movie way too young, and I really, really enjoy it. So I'm going to try to keep myself to about 15 minutes talking about that one too. But those will be our Patreon shorts for this next month. Coming up in our regular episodes next week is Sneakers, the Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier movie. Sneakers has nothing to do with tennis shoes, but one of our 3 questions will. And then we've got Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Captain Ron, Wayne's World, party time. Excellent.
Excellent.
And then White Men Can't Jump, which describes 2/3 of your hosts right here.
Oh, I don't know. John, unless you got some ups and you were talking about Bo and I, or Bo, you got some ups and you're talking about John and I don't jump very high either.
I bet you jump higher than we do.
I doubt that.
Okay. You keep telling yourself that.
All right. I mean, I can jump. It just depends on if I can't find the step stool and how high the bottle of scotch is in the shelves in the kitchen. So, or where someone has hidden the donuts. But other than that, not doing a whole lot of jumping otherwise. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you. Our Patreon folks, thank you so much for continuing to support us and communicate with us and just being great friends that we've gotten to know over our time here on the podcast. We appreciate every single one of you. We appreciate all of you coming back here week in and week out. I meant to tell you guys, I got one of those reports that we get from time to time on how we're doing on certain charts on the different iTunes stores. We were... Maybe I told you this last time. We were like number 2 in Latvia.
Right on.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I even I taught myself some Latvian enough to say thank you, and then I completely forgot it. So I'll have to do it next time.
Okay.
There you go.
And I don't know if we're number 2 in Latvia anymore, but
we were for a little bit.
It was good while it lasted. I mean, when you hit your peak, you just enjoy it.
Exactly.
So
that's all you can do.
So thank you, Latvia. We're very happy to be here.
Gee whiz. Thank you so much.
So, all right. That's going to do it. Gentlemen, thank you as always for being here with me.
Thank you, John.
All right, everybody, be excellent to each other. We're going to see you back here next time for Sneakers. Go watch some good movies. We'll see you back here next week.